Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here, and I'm back with Rob Hill to discuss Alien vs Predator Requiem. Rob and I have covered the first film, which you can find on my channel, and during that commentary, Rob revealed how much he hated the sequel at the time of its release.
I mean, it is awful. It's really, really bad. It's not that it's unenjoyable. You know, there's stuff to enjoy, but...
It sort of borders on the sort of schlock factor, I think, but also doesn't tip that way too much because we end up... Because if it was pure schlock, then I think we'd love it more, but it's not, unfortunately. Okay, folks, we are watching the unrated version, which is a little bit more difficult to track down. This runs to 1 hour and 41 minutes, and the theatrical cut is 1 hour and 34 minutes, so about 8 minutes longer. You can enjoy this podcast by itself, but you can sync it up with your own copy of the film by putting this timestamp to 0 and pressing play now. So, Rob, were you kind of excited to see this film before it was released? Because you kind of... Well, you didn't like the first one, did you, at the time?
I didn't think much of it at the time, no.
So come this one, though, were the trailers kind of, like, intriguing you?
No. No.
Okay.
No, I did see it. I didn't see it in theatres, but I did rent it as soon as it came out. And
oh, right, okay.
All I remember about it in all the intervening years, actually, until you cornered me into watching it again, was I just remembered the sewer. I just had this image of a really dark sewer and a predator doing predator stuff in that sewer, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't grab me in any way.
Because I was, as I mentioned a couple of times before on my videos, that I was a projectionist at the time, and I'd previewed this a couple of days before it came out, and we was on the biggest screen, and I could barely see a thing throughout the film, which really frustrated me. And I think we'll probably bring that up throughout the podcast.
Oh, yes.
it was just like, you're kind of seeing something, little snippets of things, think, oh, that kind of interesting, but if I could just see what's happening, then I would enjoy it a lot more. I think if you had to give it a rating, it'd be like a 2 out of 5 movie, but it would get an extra star just to be able to see the bloody thing. Also, because this movie literally just carries on directly after the first one, doesn't it? So we see the sort of the Pred Alien come out, and it's kind of a weird moment coming up because like they're passing Saturn, and then as soon as they get attacked, or the Predator sort of sees the Pred Alien and shoots it, you see the ship suddenly career towards Earth.
That's a really good point. Yeah,
I thought there was like millions of miles away, and they suddenly sort of find themselves back at Earth so quickly. That's a major continuity gaffe, I think.
But they also, I didn't realise at first, it's also not the original ship. That in fact we just saw some sort of smaller vessel leave the big ship and head back towards Earth, presumably. But then why?
Why would it?
What was what's the thinking there?
In this moment here, we saw the Pred Alien sort of getting bigger. You couldn't even see it. So what was happening there?
I know.
And throughout the commentary, the directors, the brothers Strauss, or Colin and Greg, they said they'd all of this is CGI. There's no, I think there's only a couple of like sets they kind of interact with, especially with the Predators at the desk, sort of cleaning the stuff, all the trophies there, which you see like the space jockey head on the right there. You have to sort of pause or make it really bright to see what's going on. But these guys are FX wizards. I mean, despite this film being a bit of a mess, and they produce incredible visual effects for the budgets they've got.
I mean, and that's why they were hired, I believe.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it was their idea, well, the producer's idea was like, if we get these FX guys to direct the movie, we can save money because they'll probably do extra effects shots for cheap or for free because the directors, they want it to look good.
Exactly. And that's the irony is that's what ruined it, because their whole philosophy was, well, in order for it to look convincing, it has to be dark.
Yeah.
So what's the point of hiring effects experts to make a movie if that expertise is what then ruins it, effectively? Well, it doesn't ruin it. It's rubbish anyway. But
I think the problem being is that they've got a terrible script.
Yes. Oh, my God, haven't they just?
That's the problem. I mean, this could have been a great script, and it was the same directors. You'd be a lot more lenient on it. Say, okay, I can't see much, but the characters are interesting and the story is interesting. But the problem being is that the story stinks, and it's the guy I can't remember the guy's name now, but he's now kind of co-writing the Avatar sequels with James Cameron. I mean, that screenplay list is like 5, 6 people, so it's James sort of passing off bits to other people to finish the bloody movie or make sense of these kind of long-winded sequels.
It starts on completely the wrong foot as well. I don't remember the last time I saw a movie that I took against so quickly as I did when I rewatched this. Because in the first 3 minutes, I checked the clock, in the first 3 minutes, they've shown you a chest burster, they've shown you all 3 stages of the alien's life cycle, and they've introduced and shown you the predators, who are now nerds, basically, as far as I can tell. One of them's like performing an autopsy, the other one's examining a map. And when the alien gets free, they all just freak out and blow up the ship. They just I didn't notice that till I rewatched, because I've watched this twice in the last week now. I didn't notice till I rewatched it that the alien accidentally shoots the ship. I mean, it in the first 3 minutes it ruins the entire mystique of the alien and renders the predators completely unthreatening geeks. For what? What have they achieved?
Another moment here is where we see like the first sign of proper gore, where the guy loses his arm, and the child and his dad sort of get impregnated by the facehugger. Now, when the moment comes up in a minute, where because also the stage of the chestburster being born is so quick now, there's no sort of giving it a few days. It's all just like in a couple of hours. But the producer John Davis said, "Oh, this is my favourite scene." I was like, "What?" It's quite morbid, like like seeing the kid get attacked by a chestburster coming out of his chest.
It might be my favourite scene, but for very different reasons.
When I saw this for the first time, I actually was quite impressed with their design of the Predator world, which you'd never seen before, never been. Maybe in the comics you may have seen something of a similar nature, but also it carries over that sort of pyramid structure in the background. But I just thought, I looked at it and thought, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
I think that works. And it wasn't in the script, this sequence. It had to be, it was all a last minute thing, but that's why it's all kind of done in very like few shots. And you just see like the Predator homeworld for like one wide shot, don't you, of like the kind of the bit of the city, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, and it's well done as well. I mean, obviously that's all CG too, but I didn't realise that earlier shot on the Predator spaceship with all the facehuggers and stuff. I didn't realise that was entirely CG, so that's a good sign as well. They've done good CG work.
They could. I think a lot. Do you think result of the sort of dim lighting, or sort of I think a lot of the grading has happened in this, where they've really made it dark. Is it to hide the effects?
That's what I've in my limited research, what I kept coming across was that the Strauss brothers were adamant that everything had to be very, 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 very dark, because that's the only way that the alien isn't going to look like a man in a suit, and also because it had been darkish in the previous films, not AVP obviously, but in Alien and Aliens, then they're shown in shadow and in limited light and so on, and I think that was why they did the rain at the end as well. But they obviously just pushed it far too far. I mean, there's a great example in the police car just then, or here. The contrast in this shot is ridiculous. This is demented to grade a movie like this. And it is grading as well. Apparently the on-set and original footage is better. I think the cinematographer wanted to do it dark, so it's probably darker than usual, but it was better than this.
Yes. I think it's Daniel Pearl or something like that who photographed this. Yeah, because he worked on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. He's done shitloads of music videos. He's a fantastic cameraman. But he wanted to bring on this kind of shaky cam look. Obviously, he felt the first AVP was too light, too bright with its visuals. I think he's not wrong with that. But he said that it had too many static shots. I'm like, well, I quite like having a camera on a tripod. Exactly. That's what the first Alien's like that. Even though it has a lot of things on dolly, things like that. I don't think there's any steady cam in the first Alien. I don't think.
I'd be surprised. Yeah.
The first number 2 does, I think. But it's like there's a great little clip, but Studio ADI put up, where the DP is getting so angry with the lights being too dim.
Yeah.
He's just like trying to. He's got the light meter, and he's like, "It's too low. It's too low." It's like, and the guy's like, "Change the batteries," and the guy's like, the communication was just awful. Like on the set, you can see he's just getting so annoyed. And obviously, when he shot some, I presume with the rushes, you can see, but it had this dark look. But they've obviously, as you mentioned, the grading just whacked up the contrast, or whatever, and sort of made it.
Or another thing I read was that they lowered the white point basically, which shouldn't have increased the contrast based on my understanding. It should have just made everything darker. But I don't. If they have done that, then it's obviously just a trick of the eye because everything is so dark it makes the whites look much brighter. But I'm convinced they didn't lower the white point, that they just crushed the hell out of the blacks and blew out all the whites at the other end. And
that's where the daytime scenes look horrid.
There's a scene later on when they're in the cafe, and whatever the colour scheme, the lighting scheme was for that scene, I can't begin to imagine, because it's where it's coming from, the colour of it, the nature of it, everything is wrong. It just looks weird as hell.
This is like shot on Super 35, which is kind of like, film was obviously still being used quite a lot at that point. Also, it's easier for visual effects guys, right, using Super 35 instead of anamorphic film. But it's a kind of a prime example of filmmakers using the 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio and doing a shit job of it, because the whole film's in close-ups, the majority of it. It should have been, you watch Aliens 185, Super 35 still 185, and then the first one's anamorphic 2:3:5:1. With this one, they should have, and Predator's all 185, 1 and 2 is. So why don't make AVP2 185?
It makes no sense, does it?
It makes no sense to have this aspect ratio where you're going to shoot all in close-ups. But obviously, I think they shot this in Canada, obviously to save money, Vancouver, which is kind of doubling for Colorado. The producers said there's so many films going on at that time that the kind of pool of actors they could pull from was quite limited. So they had to sort of, I think in the politest terms, had to make do with these people.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Because I think the only big star in this is, what was it, John Ortiz? Something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of 24, the Kiefer Sutherland TV show, and Rico Aylesworth, who's one of the main characters in that, is the army officer mother from this. So that's, I was kind of looking forward to seeing her, basically just being a 24 geek. But she's just so miscast, and like everyone in this seems like the third or fourth choice somehow. Like this guy isn't the first choice for anybody, is he? Neither of the brothers were ever going to be first choice. They're completely unmemorable.
His brother's called Dallas as well. Like,
Dallas Howard too. As in Bryce Dallas Howard. I don't know if that's a weird Ron Howard reference or what.
Oh, she fancies the pizza guy. Because the problem with this is you've got this kind of the great history of the Alien Predator films, and then you think, well, we're going to take this kind of franchise and combine it with, like, I suppose Friday the 13th type characters, human characters, like who are just there to. You got the pretty girls, and you got the sort of jock guy, and you got the nerdy guy. He's not nerdy guy, a bit of a guy, he's a bit of a down out of his luck, but can take a beating. But these kind of just stock human characters we've seen dozens of times before.
Exactly, and none of them feel rounded out. This is another problem with the script. None of them are developed in any meaningful way. None of them are given an arc of any sort. It's like the older brother, who's ostensibly the main character.
He's come out of prison,
It starts with him, he's coming out of prison, and he's obviously friends with the sheriff, and the sheriff used to be a bit of a tearaway as well, and there's all these allusions to what he does. He seems to have robbed a bank or something along those lines anyway, and he's asked if he regrets it, and he's like adamant that it's no, he doesn't, but he's the hero. So you're waiting for a really predictable and boring arc to come out of that, where it's revealed that he didn't actually do the crime, and he's taking the blame for his younger brother, or he was just trying to get food for his child or something, and then he sacrifices himself. And that arc just doesn't come. It just sits there. We never find out what he did really. He never shows any sign of regretting it or of.
He just comes across as a bit just overly sort of aggressive.
Yes, and this is another. Yeah, it's fundamentally unlikable, as are almost all these characters, apart from John Ortiz, who I think is the best one in it. By the way, by far the best character and actor is the sheriff. This guy,
because I don't think he even had a screen test because they loved him in Miami Vice and the Muckle Man sort of movie, and they just put him in it. And as you're saying with the lady who's from 24, I think there was a lot of Fox productions where they sort of take some of these actors from their TV shows and put them in movies, and a lot of like people that worked on this would go on to work on Predators and The Predator.
Yeah.
So like the editor Dan Zimmerman would edit Predators like a couple of years later. To sort of carry over people, it's kind of like it's sort of like the old studio system, but it's kind of not so obvious. You know what I mean?
Do you know what it really is as well, and Fox were famous for this because, as I said, as a 24 fan, I'd constantly notice people from the X-Files cropping up in 24. So they're obviously, but also the brothers who directed the movie made their name creating visual effects for the X-Files, I believe. So yeah, it's all interconnected.
So I think they pitched their idea for AVP1 because they wanted to do it. And they will obviously know we want to go for a bit more of a name people, I presume. Because this is the only film, really, out of the entire franchise, for both of them, where no one knew who they were. Really, they weren't really named people. Ridley Scott had done, oh God, what was that film he did before Alien? Oh God, it'll come back to me later. But they're all kind of named people.
Yeah.
So James had done Terminator. I suppose Dave Fincher was kind of known as commercials and videos,
Ridley Scott was riding high after the Duelists, I think, when he got that original gig.
It.
Yeah, and same thing with Cameron and Terminator.
But these are FX guys, and when I saw the poster, I went, "Who are these? Who's the brothers Strauss?"
Yeah.
I thought that's very strange. Here we go. Yeah, she's come back. She has nothing to do in the movie apart from at the end.
I hate all this stuff. Exactly. In fact, you can almost split the movie in two and say that aside from the boring, unlikable brother who has no kind of arc whatsoever, who's the main character for some reason, almost everyone else is limited to either the first or the second half of the movie, pretty much. Like the girlfriend Jessie, who gets brutally killed by accident later on. It's
a funny moment.
She's a big part of the first half of this, and then does nothing in the second half. And likewise, Rico Aylesworth, the other way around.
The manager from the pizza shop joins them later on.
Yes,
I'm like, what?
Yeah, what the
what? Apparently, this house, what the brothers live in, they required no props for this house. They just rented it off someone. And I think the DP basically said, "Who the hell lives here?" It's like because there's shotgun shells on the floor and stuff. Great way to save money. Every corner they were trying to save money. They're like all the aerial shots in the movie they shot over 2 hours because they couldn't get any more because the helicopter broke down. So they used maybe like 2 or 3 shots, which actually look fine.
Is that why all the establishing shots establish a location that we never then cut to? There's a bit a minute ago where we keep having these shots like this of a helicopter. There's one a minute ago of a helicopter shot over the top of a mountain in the middle of complete wilderness. And then, but you can hear the radio of the character, and then we cut, and it's a sewer with a trolley outside it. And it's like, how many sewers are there at the top of mountains? And who dragged a shopping trolley through miles and miles of forests and then up a mountain to just leave it outside? Spatially, nothing makes sense. Nothing adds up.
Yeah. This scene here when the composer Brian Tyler had done the music, he named this cue or the sequence called Bum Feast, right? they had to change it for the soundtrack because he couldn't call it Bum Feast, There's moments where you think they're quite clever in terms of like showing you what you can see of the alien, like it'll be coming around the corner, or like that's like a quick shots of it which are kind of nicely lit for a brief moment, and then you kind of, once you get things moving or people are being attacked, it just becomes this, you can see stuff moving around, but there's nothing actually
Yeah.
makes sense what you're seeing.
Exactly. It's like Transformers, yeah.
Yes, just like carnage of metal and clanging, and it's
Yeah.
like, what's happening here? You know. See, like the Predalien, which apparently is made up of 2/3 of Alien, and then the rest is Predator. But you barely make any idea of it. You've only kind of made sense of its shape when you see the Predator at the beginning, see it with his heat vision.
Yeah.
This kind of yellow figure.
Yeah.
It's like covered in piss. You know, it just like looks at it. Oh, okay, that's what it looks like. But you don't really get any idea of it.
No, there's a shot in the hospital as well when you saw it, because I didn't. It was a completely different shape to the one I'd realised based on the revealing shot in the hospital. But you know why it ended up being? It was just a bit of trivia I read somewhere on, and it was originally conceived to be 80% Alien and 20% Predator. But one day a child was being given a tour of the special effects studio, saw the Predalien, and said, "Oh, that's a really neat alien." And based off a throwaway comment from a random child, they completely redesigned it and gave it dreadlocks. That's why it has. They figured it looks too much like an alien. What can we do? We'll give it dreadlocks. So that's not a decision-making process. That's not a creative process. That's a random reaction to an irrelevance.
It's
weird.
like if you ever see the Superman Lives documentary, where John Peters, when they're making that Tim Burton film, he'd come around with his kids and get his kids to criticise the concept artist's work and say, "Oh, that's shit. That's good. They don't like that." And he'd be like, "Right, okay, well, this is what the kids like. Get rid of this," you know. They'd be so annoyed, you know. I still love it when I heard that John Peters got that production designer who works for Tim Burton in a headlock. He's like, "Man, really hurt." It's like been in 500 fights, John Peters. Street fights. Now, the good thing about this, right, with Requiem, remember the heat vision, Rob, in the first one? It looked like crap.
Yeah.
This goes back to how it's supposed to look.
Right, yeah.
The heat vision is visual continuity with the original films. I give them that.
That's some form of redemption.
It is, yeah. Extra point. It's like a tally between the Brother Strauss and Paul W. Anderson. Now, this sequence here, in the theatrical cut, you just kind of see him just kind of suit up. In the extended cut, he takes off the mask of the Predator he sees, and you see his face again. He puts on their mask to see what they'd seen, sort of the evidence. Because this Predator is called Wolf, right?
Yeah.
He's basically like
Winston Wolfe, I think he was inspired by from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I think that was the inspiration, because he's a cleaner, isn't he? Comes to solve a problem.
Yeah. And apparently, the Predalien had traits of the Predator where he skinned the other Predators, and they cut this scene out. It's not part of the Blu-ray or deleted scenes, but it is a deleted scene. But the Brother Strauss said, when you see the Predator in a minute, you see behind him a Predator that's been skinned, but they didn't fully erase it because they didn't have the time. So they just kind of drained the colour out of it. You couldn't see what the blood was, or the green goo, as it were. But the guy who was in the suit in the first AVP, Ian White, who went on to be the engineer, plays the Predator again. Now, if you remember, like the Predator in AVP 1, they're super buff, aren't they? Big, ginormous. So you think, okay, they've cast this like really super muscly guy to be in this big muscly suit, so they just look ridiculous, right? But they've got the same actor, and they've got this kind of Predator who's kind of slim. You know, it's like the Predator we saw in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I think the design look of the Predator is far superior.
Yeah, I'd agree there. Actually, we see it. I think it takes its mask off too much. If you're going to take your mask off at all, you can only do it in the last act, I reckon. And it does too much. It's too much showing it. But yeah, it does look better.
We've seen it twice now
without
the mask, haven't we? So,
and then for some reason it takes its mask off for the final duel with the alien, which for some reason I suppose if the alien is now meant to be part Predator, maybe that's why it was sort of it took the honourable approach at the end and didn't just.
Well, I do like the new weapons they introduced, because Predator 2 they'd introduced new weapons which are kind of been part of sort of the character's kind of mythology from then point on, like the spear, the throwing disc, the net catcher, right? So this one introduces where you can take the plasma cannon and use it as a pistol, can't he?
Yeah, yeah.
In this, which is quite cool. And he uses this like fist kind of puncher thing to get up through floors. They can smash through a floor.
Yeah.
So just kind of like little cool devices they've added to his kind of repertoire of things. And so I think the saving grace of this movie is basically the Predator, because everything else is just like shit. You know, it's kind of thing. As a fan, I watch it. I'm disappointed by this movie. The script's terrible, but at least the Predator did do some cool stuff when I could see it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And also the maybe it's because I'm so down on it, but what I really appreciated was just how fucking nasty it is. There are
isn't it?
two children watch their fathers die horribly in the space of an hour, and I mean, presumably spoilers aren't really an issue, but everyone dies too, or pretty much everyone dies. It's extraordinary when you think about it.
Oh yeah, they blow up a whole city at the end, don't they? You know, but in the commentary, the brothers Strauss were kind of like had more kind of crazy ideas about killing people. I'm just like, well, guys, you know, you're getting a bit too far.
It really is.
You know?
It's like a slasher in that respect, like you said. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. I think because they listened to the complaints, and obviously Fox were like, okay, we can make this an R-rated movie. You know, we're not confined to the PG-13 rules, which Paul was under. So they kind of went a bit too far with it. I think there would have been, you know, you have certain things where you blow up people's heads, they get cut in half, whatever. You've seen this stuff in other films, so you can kind of replicate that. But having, you know, children be killed, it's funny when the kid gets his feels the chest burst about to come out. It always like he's got trapped wind. He's like, ooh. But you've seen the woman getting impregnated who's already pregnant.
Yeah,
and the face huggers eat her baby as food. It's like, ooh, that is awful.
That's hard, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I know, I was annoyed that the first one was kind of muted in its violence, and I know they were like, okay, well, you want to see people get blown up? We'll have this. We'll have all this stuff. And you're like, okay, I know this is like kind of keeping in the thing, but I don't know. Someone should have whispered in their ear, saying, guys, you can't have that. You know, they could have just cut it. I mean, if Fox were like, this is really bad taste, you got to cut this out, but they didn't.
I did read something that was cut. I'm sorry to bring it up and then not finish. I was hoping that you'd know what I was talking about, but there was something that ended up getting cut because it was just too much. But God knows what, considering what is it. This whole thing really turns my stomach as well. When he steps into the pool of shit down there, it's just horrible. So, and well, nothing makes sense in this, man. They've gone into the sewer here.
Get their keys.
To get the keys, yeah. But he doesn't want to go in near where the keys are because he doesn't want anyone to see him.
Right, yeah.
There's a throwaway comment that explains why they now have to walk through the sewer for ages. And then, before even looking where, like underneath the grate where the keys would probably be, he just decides to jump in a pool of shit. Which he's never going to find his keys in if they are in there. And surely you'd want to check the ledge where they probably are before you do that. Nothing makes any sense.
No, not at all. I think I don't know how. Well, I'm slightly confused by the producers and even the studio, you know, accepting this script and going, yeah, we can make this. You know what I mean? It's like, this makes no sense. The dialogue's terrible. His characters are awful. I don't know. Maybe because they saw the money they can make with this sequel, because the first one made a lot of money. You know, big hit on DVD. This movie made a lot of money. That cost $40 million and made $130 million, and it was made like I think 20 plus million on DVD and Blu-ray. So
yeah,
they just like whatever. People just give. I think their prerogative was just give fans what they want.
Exactly. Yeah. They just
more killings.
Exactly.
Really violent.
I think they saw the script. They saw a lot of brutal death and went, fine, great, and no need to ask any questions. My first question would have been, unless I miss something, why is there no point at which any character tries to either hide or leave town? Because they're your two default options in a crisis, in a situation like this, aren't they? we, there's no real sense of how big this town is, for one thing, because in the first half, it appears to be there's one sheriff, one deputy, one diner. Everybody knows each other, and it's one of the, and we understand that. But then it turns out in the second half that there's an enormous hospital and an airport. So that doesn't make it. But given the size of the place, as we later learn, why does no one think to hide? Why? The first thing they all do when they discover what's happening is just start running about the middle of town.
Yeah. It's just like in the first Alien, they encounter this monster, and they basically want to get out of it, escape as quickly as possible. In the first, number two, they've got hard and ready Marines who think they can just defeat these beasts easily and get outnumbered so quickly. So overly confident characters.
In case,
this, you've got in this film you've got really confident characters to a certain degree because they're not willing to run away and escape or hide. They're just like, I don't know. But I think everyone just runs around a bit confused, really, and no one's really communicating what they're seeing. No one's saying, there's an alien, there's big monsters. No, I don't recall them saying that. I think it's kind of like, I saw something.
It gets to the point where they're pleading with the army for evacuation. And can't you just get in a car and drive? Like, surely someone in this town can just get in a car and drive.
Because this one, obviously the first one's all Wayland, and this one's Yutani, isn't it? The company, who you kind of, they only allude to them right at the very end, and we see that guy, the sort of guy in a suit who drops off the gun.
Yeah, who was a colonel a minute ago, and is a colonel in the military at one point, and then he's apparently working for her as a.
Well, it was supposed to connect to Predator 2. With Garber returning, which is Adam Baldwin, one guy at the end of Predator 2, he goes, and again, or something like that, and he's like, you fucked it up, and then there's, they'll be back, like Danny Glover says to him. So he was supposed to come back, but they couldn't get, I don't know either why he didn't want to do it or he was scheduling conflict. So that would have kind of made sense. Oh, okay, it's him. He works for Yutani. But yeah, it's just you only see the scale of the city at the end, which is basically a matte painting. This gets just blown up, doesn't
it? The insinuation being that Yutani were pulling the strings behind that, I guess.
Well, they were kind of, I think it's supposed to show that they kind of had obviously observed the events of the first one. Maybe I don't think, because Wayland and Yutani aren't one company.
There's no connection yet. They're just two separate companies that happen to know about aliens and predators.
Yeah. So they're just monitoring. I suppose it's them supposed to say, if it was the guy Garber from Predator 2, you'd show that secret organisation is still operating and they're keeping an eye on what's going on here, monitoring the skies, as it were.
So this stuff kind of works, I think, because it's hung off Ortiz and I'm not entirely buying Colorado, generally speaking, actually, as a setting in this. I don't know Colorado well, but I don't imagine it being very, particularly forested and rainy like this place is. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I think of it as being more mountainous. And
they said for the third act, the director's like, "Oh, let's have it in the rain and at night time," and the producer's like, "You're going to regret doing that because everyone's going to hate you." And you're going to get sick of shooting in the rain, and it's going to be freezing. I thought it's like winter, I think, or autumn, so it's really bloody cold.
Yeah.
And Canada isn't known for being like kind of mild in the winter, so that's always freezing cold. So yeah, they hated it. Everyone hated it, and there's also the bit coming up where the guy the Predator attacks, doesn't he? He skins him, and you see, well, Studio ADI obviously gave the guy the skinned body double a willy, so you can see the skinned willy as well. So when you see it hanging up, and I think and they were like, "Oh, you can see his penis." I will leave it in. They were like, so.
Have you got a theory on why the Predator kills that sheriff, or indeed anyone else, given that he's there to dispose of the aliens and cover up any evidence of all this? That's why he's pouring that blue nonsense on things.
That was pointed out in the commentary, actually. I think the producer questioned that. I think all the directors kind of raised it as a sort of like, why would he do that? They're like, well, I think it was just down to fan service and have it look cool. That was it.
Oh,
there's a lot of
that's the point I was going to make. But if they're just going to admit to it, then fine.
yeah. Well, they're just kind of like, oh, let's put this in because it's cool. That's because so you have two directors who know the other films frame by frame, apparently, so they adore those movies, and it's often the case when you do get fans make, a remake or a sequel to something they loved, you often get a lot of fan service stuff, which doesn't always make sense. Things don't really play out, and the frustrating element is the Predator films and Alien films always had interesting human characters.
Yeah,
and we keep cutting back to these sequences, which are just so boring.
This is the light. Look at the light here. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, okay, carry. No. This is like it's all very brown and grungy and like just ugly. It's ugly photography.
Really ugly.
And I don't think the director of photography did a bad job. I think the grading's really screwed everything up.
Yeah,
because you can't. It's like no way he would have shot it that bad.
That said, though, I mean, you've got the character sitting opposite him. His face is lit entirely from natural light, supposedly coming through the window, despite the fact that it's essentially. Well, I'm not sure if it was still dark then or not. But then the character sitting opposite him is being lit by light appearing from the middle of the cafe, and the woman who's standing up is. Nothing makes any sense in that for me.
They shot it over 52 days. This film, so it's pretty quick, considering I think they commented Benjamin Button at the time had 145 days of filming. That's nuts, Oh, he goes coming up now. The camera pans up. You see the body that's been skinned, and you see his willy. That's obviously a fan. That's a callback shot, isn't it? To Predator 1. Yeah. And they've got a musical cue. They've licensed some Alan Silvestri score of Grim Discovery. It's called. Oh, he's Willy there. Oh, God. Skinned. Never in my imagination would I ever thought, oh, yeah, I'll see a skinned Willy in a Predator film.
No, it'd be a brave filmmaker who referenced that in a future Alien movie. I'd like to see that. Little callback to the Willy.
This one's got more Willies in it. Where's that light coming from?
Exactly. How can a city, as this turns out to be, that's big enough to have a hospital that's enormous and an airport, how can it be one local sheriff who's responsible for figuring all this out and who still hasn't called the FBI or anyone useful yet?
That's true. I think it's purposely done just for the Predators to clean up more of the mess, or the aliens to kill more people, for before they call in the cavalry, as it were. There's little great shots there when you see the Predator walk in the sewer, because it's kind of a bit of daylight coming in. It's nicely composed and shot, but then you just get, he's going to encounter the aliens, as you were saying with that sewer sequence, but all you kind of remembered. He comes across the aliens and the Predator alien, and it just becomes this mess of this darkness. It's you got these, he puts up these laser sensors, right? That sort of get the aliens as they come through. But yeah,
I'm not sure if there's a bit too much of this first-person perspective as well through the the filters of what the Predator and the alien are seeing.
It does use it a lot, doesn't it, in this? I think it's maybe just to sort of show, because you can't see anything. Oh God, we need to put some more shots in so you can actually see what he's actually looking at.
The Predator is actually a better cinematographer than the filmmakers. Yeah, it's just that whole scene was all close-ups. Just like. It's like magic. They've tried to recreate Magic Hour or something in the entire lighting scheme. It's here again. It's weird sort of ethereal warmth, but at the same time extraordinary contrast.
I think maybe down to the sort of look of those movies at the time as well. If you look at Transformers, I think it's got like a sort of bleach bypass to it or something. I don't know.
It could be. It looks
does
almost digital, doesn't it? Actually, I suppose because they've pushed it so far in the grade.
Because this wasn't obviously, it was shot on film, but it wasn't graded in the traditional methods of chemicals and stuff. It's just like whack it in the computer, scan it all in at 2K, and grade the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
And then we can do everything with it. It just ends up looking doesn't look natural. You know what I mean? Doesn't look like, how do they get that? Doesn't make sense. I also don't know why she's so attracted to this kind of pizza guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's just like written in such a silly way, like those movies, like like rom-coms or something. Which is like, oh, she fancies him because of reasons.
It's just these every single character dynamic in this is basic and stock. In fact, it's so basic they don't limit themselves to one main character returning home for the first time in a long time, only to find some difficult family issues to deal with. That's both the main characters. One of them out of prison and finding his brother in trouble, and he struggles to find his place back in the town because everyone thinks he's a criminal. And her coming out of the army and struggling to connect to her daughter again. And apparently she was originally in the process of divorcing the husband. I don't know if you came across that nugget anywhere. They were originally divorced. So that's another completely stereotypical character dynamic on top of it. And then you've got the younger brother and the girl, and of course they have to be. She lives in this big fancy house and has the arsehole boyfriend. He's put upon and bullied by the arsehole boyfriend and has to work as a pizza delivery guy because they're so. These dynamics are just so basic and they don't go anywhere. They never change.
No. Because they're just there to facilitate the story moving forward.
Yeah, you know full well what's going to happen in every case. You know that boyfriend's going to get ditched and murdered, and those two are going to end up together. So you don't know that she's going to get chopped in half by mistake. To be fair, that's a bit of a development.
I love how people are sort of overly confident in this movie as well, where they happily go into that hospital, and sort of try and deal with the predators and alien themselves. I'm like, what planet are you on?
How does the objective end up being we have to get to the hospital where there's a helicopter? How can that be? How is that helicopter still there, for one thing, if the whole town are...
This whole fight, you can barely see what's happening.
Are there two aliens? I can't even tell.
Yeah. And then the Pred alien kind of punches him, but you can't really make sense of that, really. What they should have had, right, is a character like this crazy redneck who's been like obsessed with UFOs and stuff, and he's got shitloads of guns on him, and he's been following all this. And he goes, right, I'm going in, and he just he kicks his kicks ass. He's like he's written to be a bit of a knob, but he's actually a really interesting character. That would have made sense to me. I mean, that would have been a bit different.
And they had the opportunity as well. There's like a couple of stoners hanging out in the gun shop, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
And they could also just get brutally killed. Every time I think I hate this film, something really unpleasant and unexpected happens in regard to someone getting murdered, and it does help.
Now, this lady, who's because they say that the Pred alien is attracted to women who are pregnant, so it sort of gives for its own babies to have food, whatever to eat. Obviously, it's a horrible idea. And she obviously finishes her shift, then goes back in. He's been killed kind of off camera. You sort of see in the foreground, out of focus, he's getting his head ripped off or something. But it's a great moment. I always love it because he's got those sort of saloon doors, right? And the alien just pops through the door and just goes, hello, sort of goes towards her. She's like, ah! I just love it. Absolutely love it.
That, again, in the subplot that was dropped about Rico Aylesworth's character being in the process of divorcing her husband, he was having an affair with her, and that baby is in fact his.
Shit.
In the original concept.
See, look, with the saloon doors. Hello there. And then Pred Aliens in there. I mean, the music actually is a lot better in this film than the first one. It's got more of a big theme, big music to it. Even it's Brian Tyler.
It's very big at times. There were a couple of moments when it made me laugh at how big the swirling drama was.
It's quite a deafening score, actually. It's quite loud in the mix. There's a bit where the girl's coming up now. I think it's the moment when she got the night vision goggles and she looks outside into the garden and there's an alien there. They said Tom Woodruff Jr., who's obviously he's played the alien since Alien 3. He got I think the producers got in trouble because he basically destroyed this lady's flower bed. He was in just sort of waiting around for him to go, to shout action. It's these expensive flowers.
Oh, God, I just hate the way this is lit.
Even the bars are so dark as well. Like, you see,
everything Ortiz was just doing then was he was between this guy and the light source too, so the shadows kept flashing across his face. I don't know. You see, yeah, where is this? So that this kind of thing doesn't happen here in these small towns, and they're sitting in the bar. I've got no idea what kind of an area, what kind of a place this is meant to be.
No, because you just see him walk into a bar. You don't even see the exterior of it. You just sort of see this kind of like, you've got the reflections of all the glass in the background and the sign. That's about it. That's all you kind of see of it. The pizza restaurant was apparently like a really tiny restaurant, so they had little space and had to sort of review the footage, like in the toilet, because it's so little space. So you see it from like one angle, really. I think maybe just the exterior as well. But this apparently, this was a proper functional power station. And they took the people that owned it had to take a lot of persuasion to let them film there, because they're worried about all the explosions they're going to have, like the pyrotechnics and things like that, which is obviously kind of a major concern. But managed to wrangle it. But they said, like John Davis said, a lot of films he's produced where you've got a story that is not very sympathetic of the military, getting tanks and stuff, they're just like, we won't give them to you.
Yeah.
Because your message is like against the army. So I think he's shooting some other film, and this and the guy who owned all these tanks and stuff, part of the kind of it's part in his city, whatever. I can't remember specifically, but he said like, "Oh yeah, Mum, you can have these tanks, but my daughter's wants to be an actress. Can you put her in the film?" And put her as the co-lead or something. And he was like, no. So he had to go to Australia to get his tanks. Ridiculous. There's some cool little moments here with the Predator doing stuff, because you can kind of see what's happening now. You've got more sources of light kicking in. Again, the frustrating element is there's a lot of, again, close-ups.
And it's another location that we suddenly find ourselves in, with a bunch of new characters who we don't know and are just there to get killed. It really is like a Friday the 13th movie, isn't it, when you stop and think about it?
Oh, yeah. Because those films just rinsed and repeat.
And
everything.
This could be straight out of a slasher, this whole sequence as well.
Oh, for sure. And because the way they shoot her as well, it's shot like a
shameless, isn't it? It's absolutely shameless.
Yeah. It's classic horror.
And we both go quiet.
But like, this moment coming up now, the bullies turns up, and I like. The director's like, oh yeah, we cut a scene where you find out the bully figures out where they are. So okay, you cut out a scene which basically giving us some made sense.
That occurred to me as well, actually. Yeah, how did they know that they were here?
Yeah. Why would you go there just to do that? It's just sets up a scene where the alien can attack them and use a sequence where it's underwater.
Yeah, and also it's male fantasy, isn't it? In those slasher movies, girls are always doing this. The hot girl will lure the guy she fancies somewhere and then just take all their clothes off.
Oh, yeah. Don't know anyone that's ever happened to before.
Also, no, it's probably I'm probably getting too obsessed with the issues with this film here, but that swimming pool doesn't look like it can be drained in the space of what the half hour or hour, whatever period of time it is between that happening and the sheriff and everyone being there to figure out what was going on. At which point the pool is completely drained.
It's completely drained.
Yeah, the pool is empty in the next scene.
What? Man, I don't remember that. Maybe it was just too dark to see it.
My guess is that they shot one scene and then the pool got drained in real life, and then they had to shoot the following scene where either it got added later or they had to reshoot it or whatever. But then surely they could have done it without showing the water level, because it's not integral, unless they just wanted to get the dead body in the bottom of the pool in.
Yeah, I'd imagine that. I just kind of noticed that the Predator's got 2 plasma cannons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got 2.
Sequels are meant to be bigger.
I love how the Predator gets really pissy then, doesn't he? When he's like, he keeps missing them. He's like, for fuck's sake! You know? This film has a lot of edits where it sort of fades to black in this.
Yeah.
Which I don't think was redeployed in the other films.
Also, if you're trying to drown someone, you're fighting to the death, but because the lights that weren't on anyway got turned off, everybody just stopped. Would that really happen?
No. Surprisingly, they keep the bully around for longer just because they want him to essentially die in a horrible way.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
Yeah,
he does.
they want to give him a really nasty death, and they also want to have a couple of scenes of people saying to him things like "Shut up, you're too stupid to talk" and things like that.
It's like most directors who who make these sort of films with these kind of story plot points. I was bullied at school, so I'm going to take revenge on these guys who bullied me. And
Okay, now what do you do in this situation? Do you run about the town for the next hour, or do you hide, or do you leave?
I think I'd leave, Rob. I think
I'd leave. Or just go. Why? No one ever just hide in your loft or something. Eh? You're not going to have an alien traipsing through someone's loft looking for bodies.
No, it's going to go for easy targets, isn't it? This is a bit coming up with Tom Woodruff in Lady's Garden making a mess.
Yeah. Oh, really? Right. I love the way it has to look at her, and you have to hear it growling.
Oh, yeah. This is the behind the scenes material online. We see Daniel Pearl getting pissed off. It's this sequence here they're shooting where he's like, it's too dark, because they had the alien jump through the window, attack the guy.
It's about the only scene that makes sense being this dark, because the power's gone out and they're just in someone's house, so there's no backup or anything.
So look, it's attacking him on the floor, but just there's not much there. You can't see
anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure fans have just taken this film, shoved it into their final cut or debut premiere, and just whacked up the shadows and the exposure on it and brightness, and just gone, oh, I can see it now.
Is the detail still there though? Because it just looks crushed to me. It's like when if you're dealing with a bit of old footage and you're trying to make it clearer. As soon as you increase the brightness, all it really does is reduce the contrast in a way, because the detail's been crushed out of it by that point.
You'd have to really, for them to redo this, they'd have to go back to the negative, wouldn't they, and just redo it again.
Yeah, definitely, I think.
Because there's far better tools, with professional graders than what you get, I think, really, with this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The typical editing software.
Oh, God, yeah.
Or maybe because the pool's empty, because he's just evaporated everything.
Yes, because that
yeah, it's just dissolved all the water.
It's another thing that really annoys me, that blue liquid. It doesn't. For a start, there's no point in it, because the only purpose it serves is to eliminate any evidence of all this. But the Predator himself is constantly creating more evidence of it, and the way it works only on, it just pours a little bit on like an alien's head, and then the entire alien melts, but nothing around it. It's like
a video game.
It's something you'd see in a cartoon or a video game. Yeah, it just doesn't scientifically. It just somehow it doesn't add up.
Because the blue stuff's used in Predator 2, isn't it? It's basically not to dissolve stuff. It's to basically crunch it up to make it like liquid.
Of course,
remember?
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Because he repairs himself.
It's like
So this stuff is a bit more, just basically just erases everything.
But it doesn't erase, but it leaves the side of the pool, for example, completely unmarked. All the signs are still there, everything's still there, and the remains of the body is still there. It's just destroyed water and alien. Oh no, there wasn't an alien there, was there? So it's just destroyed water.
I think it's got like, you saw a bit of some remains of a human.
Yeah,
sort of turned to liquid. Sort of dried up. No, he's left all that. Yeah. He also, Daniel Pearl photographed the remake of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I noticed that. And he's done a few remakes, hasn't he?
Which I didn't mind, actually. I thought it was all right.
It's watchable.
Yeah, because out of those Michael Bay kind of produced remakes, I thought it wasn't that bad. I think it combined 1, 2, and 3 into one movie. I think I
don't remember now. I looked it up the other day on Letterboxd, but when I realised he'd done it, and I don't have no memory of it, but I noticed I gave it a reasonable rating.
That film was a lot of like over the top teen kind of like nudity, kind of like attitude to everything, like women with fake boobs and stuff everywhere. It's just like,
yeah,
it was so silly though. They'll get killed off in horrible ways, which kind of adds to the kind of the schlocky humour of it all. And that, I recall that film having a very similar look to this. With it's not as obviously dark, but it's sort of very lit with the use of the blues and stuff, and it's sort of seen visually kind of similar in places. But it's also, again, as I mentioned earlier, kind of very familiar style at this point with those kind of movies.
Yeah, it was. It was really
It's like now everything's like, if they remaster a movie, let's put loads of teal in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Batman. They remastered Batman and Batman Returns in 4K. God, added teal over everything.
Really?
So you just ruined the look of it.
That just doesn't fit at all with those Tim Burton movies, though. That doesn't work.
They're monochrome.
All.
They're very monochrome.
Yeah.
Very limited colours, and you add blue, like a light kind of teal, like coldish blue to everything.
Yeah, I know exactly that. It's that kind of teal cyan. It's that colour. In fact, it's on everything nowadays. I think I've complained about this before, but I hate it.
Just leave it how it's supposed to look. I don't understand. I don't know why they find it appealing, because either to appeal to new audiences who they presume like teal.
I think it looks kind of clean and futuristic-y and so on, but it also I think the original thinking in a way was to do with skin tones. It's meant to make skin tones really pop, but of course you have to leave the skin tones their natural colour for it to do that, and they generally
end up going more orange, don't they?
Yeah,
I find. Oh, there's a Predator here now. Right, he's going to be repairing himself, but you can barely see what he's doing. It's like, okay, they're using blue, sort of the moon, sort of that lightish kind of, to sort of give it a bit of lighting, but they don't. James Cameron would use that, but you kind of see what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where nowadays they try and avoid that and try and make it look like real darkness, like with the cameras, and you still can't see anything. It made it worse. Like watching some of these new Disney shows on like Mandalorian and stuff, where Obi-Wan, they have a nighttime scene. You can't see anything.
Yeah.
It's like watching this.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
It's the bane of my film watching life these days.
Films are becoming more and more difficult to see.
Yeah. It is, and here as well.
Oh, hearing, yeah, because they crush the dynamic range a lot for home viewing, and the dialogue's like so quiet, and all the effects are so loud. You're like, whoa, watching an action movie. You're just constantly adjusting the volume.
Yeah, and kids today, they're not polite enough. Policemen are too young. There's all. It's got nothing to do with the fact that we're getting old. This scene.
Or is your head going to explode?
What is
Come
the?
Yay! That was good.
If you analyse this scene for a minute, what's happening is a man with a gun has decided to hide in the open in the middle of a graveyard, and a woman military expert is running around town with her daughter instead of hiding or leaving in the car that was in their driveway. They've just run on foot into the graveyard and decided to hide again in the open in the middle of that graveyard with the idiot. Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone do any of those things?
Makes no sense. It's got characters not acting with any logic.
Yeah.
You know.
And it stands out all the time. Even this shot here, people are panicking, and okay, so this is the one allusion to the fact that people are trying to leave town, even though all those cars will be abandoned. If you're desperately trying to escape somewhere, you're not going to sit in a traffic jam when the oncoming lane is completely empty. I know it's nitpicking, which isn't what I like to do normally, but you only start thinking about these things when there are so many of them and nothing else is working to distract you.
How does the other members of the public know what's going on?
Yeah.
They've had a power cut. That's all they know is they've had a power cut. So there's only a handful of characters who've come into contact with these monsters.
As far as we know, but then we also don't know how many there are. This is one of the main notes I had after watching this, is I never have any idea how many aliens there are. There could be 3 or 4, or, well, a few more than that. But there could be... everyone's behaving as if there are hundreds of them, and they're everywhere.
Well, there seems to be loads of them, because they just seem to encounter... No, we don't. And so you've only seen you saw the homeless people get attacked, you saw the kid and his dad get attacked... That's like 5 maybe in total. I mean, there's 3 bums, wasn't there?
Not much has happened. All that's happened since everyone was searching the woods, assuming there was a missing person issue. All that's really happened since then and now is the power's gone off. But it's changed everything.
There should have been like I don't know, if they had one scene where there's like a news report and they film these things running around.
Exactly. Yeah. And a few shots of people panicking on their way out of the house and so on. And also an explanation as to why none of our main characters are trying to leave with them. Just, it doesn't have to... They have to be tied to the town for some reason. Someone should have... If there was just someone in that hospital, a couple of people in that hospital who needed to be rescued, or I'm not leaving without so-and-so, then it would give everyone a motivation to be doing what they're doing.
Well, it's like Ripley in Alien. She goes back to get the cat.
Yeah.
There's motivation there.
Brilliant.
They should have a scene where the one woman's like, my cat's at the vet. I've got to save it. And that is a motive. You'd be stupid, but you'd be like, well, it's on point. Things are getting worse, but they're not really explaining what's going on. No one's like, I've seen an alien. I mean, none of that.
That alien was hiding in a shadow for the military to walk by, and it then managed to snatch one of them away, but without the guy next to him noticing. That this is all slasher stuff, isn't it? It's not. That's not how aliens work. And how did he not see that alien when he approached the car? He must have almost tripped over it. It just stood up where he was. So lazy.
Oh, it's all again done in close-ups. Hide everything, all in the rain. I suppose. Did Rambo 4 come out after this or before this? I think it was before this, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm not sure. I
Because
thought it was
Rambo
after,
uses... Oh, sure, I just because Rambo uses that big tank gun, doesn't it, at the end? It's like, cuts through everyone. I thought, maybe they're kind of trying to homage that in some way. I don't know.
That is glorious. The heads that explode in that scene are just incredible.
I do like Rambo 4. There's a lot of fun stuff in it with the British guy.
Oh, he's
just
great,
like
isn't
complete. Oh, he's so good. Fucking boatman. He's like,
he's a proper throwback to like the late 80s, early 90s. So many movies like that had a British mercenary type who was just like that.
yeah. He's just like always lines of spouting swear words, isn't it?
There's one in not Deep Rising. What's the
It might be Deep Rising. Is a British? No, it's Australian guy.
That's it. No,
He was Kano in Mortal Kombat.
that's it. Yeah, I think he's actually British, but he got
Was it? Oh, okay.
typecast playing Australians. Weirdly,
He died, didn't he? He died quite young. He had a heart attack, I think.
oh really? He was very
Yeah,
good in
it's
all those movies in which he played some sort of scumbag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Been typecast as scumbag.
He was either Australian and got typecast playing English actors, or the other way around. I forget now.
That's going to bother you all day now, Rob, isn't it? I have to wiki it. So the hospital itself, the exterior is a town hall,
Oh, okay.
and the interior is a mental hospital they'd used.
See, this is I remember thinking this actually. This is about the only sense we get of a major event, because there's obviously far more going on at the hospital than we've actually seen. They're dealing with a massive crisis, but we haven't seen one. We've just seen a few isolated attacks.
I suppose the crisis, what we get to see is that they've had a power cut, so the hospital itself would have a backup generator, right? So I don't know why it's like complete darkness. You know what I mean? Because it would always have backup. But yeah, we're getting to see that the building up to the horrible scene, and we've already seen the lady who's going to get attacked turn up at the hospital. It's just
To be honest, I was expecting. By this point, I was thinking, okay, I wouldn't be surprised if all those babies get eaten. No, that could actually, and they didn't go that far, but
no. But I'm sure it might have been an idea. I wouldn't push it past her, you know. I think I remember still being confused how the Predalien actually looked until they actually brought out an action figure. I was like, oh, that's what it looks like.
because as I mentioned earlier, that shot then of it in the corridor is about as much as we see of it in one shot, you know, other than through the Predator vision.
Oh, those poor women are watching as well. Oh my God.
No matter how pregnant I was, I would not be lying there, I don't think. I know it's easy for me to say as a male, but come on. Surely you get up and...
I think she was supposed to be like, clearly they've got her hair back or have it look a bit like Sigourney Weaver. You know what I mean? Even at the final shot of her at the end as the camera looks down at her as it goes up, you know, it's kind of really trying to sort of copy.
It's obviously where the daughter comes from as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
They just do nothing with the character, though. She has hardly any dialogue, for one thing, if you notice. She really doesn't say, and she says nothing of any consequence, nothing that reveals anything about her, nothing that really moves the plot along.
Who did she just attack? I thought that was Dallas then. Was it someone else?
It was one of the brothers, I think. Because...
Oh, he's upside... Yeah, he's upside down.
The idea is this is bait, I suppose. But they're in a small shop full of people. Why does... That's bait already. Hanging someone up in the next aisle, it doesn't make any difference.
What did it do then? I can't... couldn't see.
It made a hell of a whiplash noise.
Yeah, he's using his really cool whip, isn't he? He sort of cuts them up and stuff. But it's like, if I could just see that, you know, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. So they put these shots. Oh, that's great. They put these shots in, and like, the thing to try and appease the fans. Oh, but it's really cool angles and really cool stuff. And it's like, yeah, but I can't see it, mate. You know?
And it increasingly feels like they're just introducing characters in order to kill them as well.
That's horrible.
That's why they wanted him living.
The Studio ADI sort of did the makeup for the guy's face, like his all burn marks, and they CGI'd basically to concave his head. It's like, oh, you know, imagine Rob having to work on that visual effects shot over and over again. You'd be like, oh, you know.
Mind you,
I suppose you'd be kind of numb to it by then.
a lot of the visual effects artists I know would have loved working on that shot. Actually, the gory, and the only ones they prefer are ones involving nudity.
Oh, really?
Which always got shared around. Because there's always outtakes that you
check this out. You know?
No, seriously, we'd always be given like handles and additional shots. So there were always bits of footage that you'd never see in the movie that were often a lot more revealing. I remember Troy. There was a shot with full frontal Brad Pitt naked, and
really,
the projectionist who was gay decided that he was going to have a secret showing that wasn't very secret of this scene one lunchtime, and there's about 100 people and it's crammed into that theatre just to see Brad Pitt naked.
Oh, so we just literally talked over the gruesome scene. We just play for the best, I suppose.
There are more.
But I distinctly remember when I previewed this and that scene happened with the pregnant lady. I was just like, I'm kind of done with this movie. You know, at that point, I was just like, that was horrible. And
it's too. I don't know. You can sell stuff like that, but you've got to give it some feeling. You can't just do it for effect. You can't just throw something like that at the screen. You've got to think about it.
Yeah. Apparently, that vehicle they purchased then was supposed to be like this. They wanted something to replicate the big tank thing in Aliens. What was it called? I can't remember the name of it now. But they bought this kind of crappy thing that just kept leaking, and they couldn't barely get a camera in there to sort of turn it around to do like the two shots. You know, shoot from someone's reaction to someone talking. You know,
so is that makes sense actually, because of all the terrible cinematography and appalling editing in this movie, the scene of them all talking inside that vehicle really stands out as being particularly bad. The blocking, the cinematography, the editing, everything. And maybe if they didn't have enough room in there, that explains some of it. Yeah.
But it's the whole scene itself. You got no context or location there. Really.
No.
It's just like you're just seeing everything in close-up. So you just don't know what's the geography of everything. You know what I mean? Obviously, this character here, that's supposed to be Garber from Predator 2.
Oh, okay.
I suppose if they had a better choice of actors, maybe, you know what I mean. The actors could have given maybe had a bit more experience, maybe had done with John Ortiz, Ortiz, you know, he knows what he's doing, but the sort of supporting characters, you know, had a bit more work under their belt. They could have said, "This ain't good. You know, can we change this dialogue? Can we improve this?" You know, kind of did what they were told, I suppose.
Yeah, I think there's too many characters as well. When all of the other Alien movies and most of the Predator movies have a limited cast they
whittle them down to like 2. Or
yeah,
1, you know.
Yeah, they start with far fewer than this movie does, and then they end with a lot fewer. But they're also confined in a place, which I suppose you end up with more characters when you're not confined. But to lose those two integral aspects and then handle losing them so badly, it just seems like it was doomed from the start. You know, from the very concept, it was doomed.
That's where the Predator's going to use the plasma cannon as a pistol, which I think is quite a cool idea. I like that.
I suppose that's to get it down to a manageable size for the human that will end up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It says 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 aliens. There's a great shot coming up, which you can actually see, where the predator just like pushes the alien's head against the wall, just shoots it. You know, it's quite nice. I think there was the directors were like, "Oh, what about the acid blood? Would that affect the predator and stuff?" And it's like, ah.
They just completely forget about the acid blood in the second half of this movie.
Well, they were like, one bit they're like, "Oh, the blood's all drained from the alien. It's fine." Okay.
There's a bit on top of the hospital roof when they I can't remember which of the brothers it is, but he's got the predator's gun, and the alien's above him, like looking down, and he leans back and he shoots it in the head, and it explodes above him.
Yeah,
but not a single drop of its blood touches him or does any damage to anything else around them. See, I think this just looks hideous.
This is boneheaded dialogue. Yeah, just like it's like they're not even contemplating leaving.
You're right. The dialogue's even worse. It's the whole movie hinges on them on her just sort of going, actually, I don't think that the military are going to rescue us. I think they're going to nuke the whole city. And half the people in that vehicle go, oh, yeah, you're probably right. Let's go to the hospital instead. Surely you're going to...
They go there because there's a helicopter, isn't there, on the top to escape. That is it.
Yeah. And the airport's too far away. But, I mean, being in transit, I'd have thought being far away would be a good thing because there'd be less likelihood of there being any aliens there. And they haven't been attacked at all whilst in transit, so why not go there?
Here we go. Let's bring back the manager at the pizza store, the restaurant, It's like, yeah, we needed to see him again.
He hasn't got his hat on.
These characters are so rubbish.
None of this is justified. None of this is believable.
It's just, I don't know how someone could be paid to write this, And he's now doing the Avatar sequels.
Yeah. It does feel like there's a lot of footage on the editing room floor.
To sort of, have some sort of sympathy for the writer who may have actually kind of made things slot together a bit better, but it's always it's had a theatrical runtime of like 93 minutes, something like that. So
yeah, it's very short.
That's like perfect, isn't it, for a studio? We can squeeze in 12 showings a day, with that multiplex, and make our money back. If it's like maybe half an hour longer, they'll be like, no, it's a half that, the showings.
I mean, what has she done in the last half an hour other than just be in the background of the shot?
Oh yeah, she's done nothing. She's just no reason to be there. She's like, well, you can for why is the pizza guy, the younger brother, now like he knows what he's doing? He can hold a gun properly. You know what I mean? You'd be like trying to shoot it, and it's like, it's got safety on, That's why you need some sort of gun-obsessed hicks to sort of like take along with you.
What's that guy called in Tremors? I always think of the guy from Tremors. He's the stereotype for that.
Oh man, yeah. Oh yeah, he's great. I love that guy. So that's you need someone like him. It's got like an elephant gun.
Yeah.
It's just trying to shoot these aliens in the corridor of a hospital.
It would have made a lot more sense if they'd kept this a small town with a limited community that you could sort of draw an example of each little subgroup of people from and put them all in one place and have them all doing one thing and everyone with a role to play in that. And it's...
I remember before it was released, I remember synopsis. I think maybe the script got leaked, and people were just like, "Oh my god, it takes place in a town. This sounds awful." You know, this the thought of having an Alien movie and a Predator movie take place in a town in Colorado, you'd be like, "What the fuck?" You know? No, it just seems so small, doesn't it? In its idea, there's no that means it's got no scope to it.
Well, I think that would be. I think you can do that though. I think you can make it really small, but you've got to commit to it, and their thinking, I assume, was, well, we've seen we've seen the Predator or the Alien in the jungle, on different planets, in an ice cap, and in the city in Predator 2. What we haven't seen is suburban America, and that's there's probably a reason why we haven't. In fact, there is a reason why we haven't seen this in suburban America, and they pointed it out in the AVP commentary that they knew they couldn't have the movie take place in an environment with witnesses.
Yes,
because that would foul up the whole backstory, the whole timeline, the general public. So that's why they set it in the Arctic, Antarctic, wherever it was. And obviously they'd forgotten that by this movie. Because it doesn't, apart from it being a downer of an ending, it leaves unanswered questions because they've just killed thousands of people. The American government have killed thousands of their own citizens to keep this a secret. But I said, what, they're just going to let the handful that escape go free and wander about? Or what happens to them? Presumably they get locked up in a black site for the rest of their lives.
Well, there was at the end, we got Dallas and the military lady, kind of like survive. The directors said, we were going to shoot an alternative ending where the military who turn up to take the gun, they just shoot them down.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting, actually.
They thought that was a bit too harsh, I think, to end it with. It's like, well, at that point, it'd just be like, what we've seen is just the Predator killing a bunch of aliens and some gruesome stuff. And you think, well, what was the point in the movie? What is the objective of this film? What was the main reason, apart from just having them fight again? Which is probably the reason why Sigourney Weaver was so dead against them doing an AVP film, because I just thought it sounds stupid. In the context of playing a video game, it kind of works, and the comics can do so much more because you don't have the budget. You don't have to worry about a budget. The Predator's doing some cool stuff here. He's just shooting aliens with his gun. Here we go. Boom! I like that.
That's right, he turned his head away. That's why the acid didn't do him any harm.
If I don't look at it, that'll be fine. But all over his back, though, wouldn't it? It uses way too much of that blue liquid to shove it in its mouth. Because earlier on, it will just a little sprinkle of it will just like wipe out everything,
How does that blue liquid know not to eat the entire build, not to eat everything? How does it know when to stop?
Oh. So this in the unrated cut, you get to see more of her basically body just like kind of fall apart now as it's dangling up against the wall, and the guy's like, "You killed my girlfriend, who I've like fancied for like half an hour."
I deliver her pizza.
Yeah, she tipped me very well. Idiot. The Predator was cleaning up, you bozo. I think like they say like his character kind of died anyway. Well, he gets impaled here, but they said, he like the infection killed him or something like that. Just okay.
I've read something about a bad test screening where the audience really objected to him getting killed. And I thought, what fucking audience watched this movie? And the problem they had with it was the death of an unlikable prick. We've like this, children killed, babies eaten in the womb. That's fine.
He must have really resonated with the audience at the time. My God. Must have asked a bunch of bozos off the streets to sort of watch it.
Probably full of, the audience is probably full of teenagers who just delivered pizza to someone they fancied.
Papa John's staff, Oh, you can kind of hear, like, they've added sound effects of the aliens getting shot, but you're not actually seeing anything at the moment. So it implies there's even more aliens, Oh, there's one there hanging in a bush.
So the whole city is confined here. The assumption I've come to is that it's ring fenced by the military, and so people by this point people can't escape. A city of this size, I mean, it must be to support an airport and a hospital. It must be tens of thousands of people.
So it's not a town; it's a city.
Yeah, yeah.
Really. Yeah.
And also we see in the background, there's a couple of shots of that colonel, and in the background he's looking at a satellite image of what looks like an enormous sprawling metropolis. So how are they imagining, for a start, why are there only a few dozen people in the middle of town here? Have all the others been killed, or did they escape, or what? But how are they imagining an entire city is going to be airlifted from a little spot like that in the middle of town?
They're bloody naive. Like even the military there, if they know what's going to happen, why would they stick around?
Yeah,
They're going to get blown up.
Yeah.
You know, they're not. I don't think guys the military would be that fucking stupid to think, oh well, I'll just hang around here. Debris, heat damage. What was the other bit? Oh, it's quite quick there.
So this bomb is 10. They mentioned at some point it's 10 times the power of the ones dropped in the Second World War.
Oh right, okay.
But the blast zone on that map only covers a fraction of the city. It's so big.
What?
It's like you can see it's like the blast zone, and then it's like the heat zone or something like that. And but even the wider
zone debris as well.
Yeah, but even the widest one doesn't come close to covering the whole city. I hate nitpicking about that, even though I spend so much time talking about bad movies. Nitpicking details like that isn't the way to do it, I don't think. But sometimes you just can't help it because there are so many of them, and there's nothing else to hold your attention.
They use so much, don't they? Of as you were saying earlier, I definitely actually took notice of that. The amount of the heat vision stuff they use in this movie. Or the night vision, I suppose.
Fan service, I guess.
Yeah, but it's just... They've got so many kind of aliens in this. I don't think their headpiece, like the articulation, is as good as the other films Studio 89 did. Maybe because they've made so many, I don't know. It's just like they'll have less articulation. It's kind of there for 1 or 2 seconds of being on camera.
Yeah, you get the feeling that all the scenes with the aliens were kind of pieced together from very short, well they are obviously very short shots, and it's all part of their obsession with not showing too much, with not letting us notice that it's just a guy in a suit. And so it's not only really hectic editing, but it's really bitty somehow. You can't, you struggle to get a sense of orientation. And
oh, he goes to the bit where he's coming up with the aliens above him. He's going to shoot it, but he's absolutely fine.
Another repeated shot as well. What's the alien doing too?
That's waiting, to be shot.
Where did all that acid land then?
Now, apparently here the Predator, because he fell down that lift shaft, he's supposed to crawl back up, but he was like, you see him like bleeding all over, like he was all glowing, but when they shoot it, you see a little bit of it there, but he's kind of, the water just kept, because it was shot in the rain,
yeah, it's
just kept running off him.
There was just a shot then, yeah.
I have to forget about it.
We're coming up to one of the most shameless references ever, that dialogue exchange where they managed to reference both franchises at once. So get to the. One of them says "get to the chopper," and the other one says, "You don't have to do this, Dallas." You just picture fanboys cheering in the cinema.
Fanboys who may be like 14, 15, but anyone who's a fan of it in like 20s or 30s would be like, just like annoyed.
Oh my god.
Or was that supposed to be a little callback to Aliens then, where she's in the Vasquez is just kind of just shooting with a pistol as the alien gets towards her, must be.
With a magazine round. I meant to count how many times he shot then. I forgot, but it's at least 15 or 20 rounds in that 9mm pistol. This is all they wanted to do. Make this film for, I think, wasn't it? This scene.
Yeah, basically just have a punch up at the end, which is like difficult to do because you've got two guys in suits, and one's got a suit that's so cumbersome, looks like it's to wear and moving, so the shots have to be really quick and not very elaborate. It's just like pushing each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's the point I was going to make earlier, actually, when I deviated myself. Because it's put together so quickly, and because they were so worried about about revealing the fact that it's just someone in a suit, that they don't really do anything in any of the shots. So the action's created through editing rather than in camera.
Yes. It's like just kind of posing, really, in sort of moments, or just having the alien kind of go from the left to the right of the frame for these quick cuts, or just sort of look up. There's not much you can do.
And I don't know. It ends up being so underwhelming too, because you wait the whole movie for this fight, and then they go at each other, and then like you don't know which one's going to win. And I'm sure at the time I probably cared, but whatever the result, they both just get wiped out by a nuclear bomb anyway.
Yeah, that's always the thing, isn't it, with these films? You have to, because it's a Predator film as well, you have to end it with an explosion, to sort of wipe things out. So you just kind of like, I suppose it's always a sort of get out of jail sort of card, you know what I mean, to sort of clean things up.
But it renders that fight scene pointless and completely tension free, because the result of it doesn't make any difference to anything. It doesn't matter who wins.
Yeah, because you knew it was going to blow up anyway. It wasn't like a big surprise, was it? But it shows you that the humans are more of a threat than the alien and Predator.
Yeah.
They just literally blow the shit out of everything.
And in fact, so the landscape we're now watching getting blown up is nothing like the satellite image showing the devastation of the bomb.
Dallas. He can't use that name. He doesn't have the right. I suppose he didn't just like throw in other names like Vasquez. Yeah. And you've got Hicks and bloody blah.
Hicks was Bill Paxton was nearly in this, wasn't he? Did you come across that bit of
trivia? That's right. Yeah,
he wanted to do it, but he had scheduling problems apparently, which I interpret as someone let him read the script. Don't think I'll be doing this actually.
I don't know who he was supposed to play. Was he supposed to play him, or I don't know?
He was meant to. I think it was meant to be a cameo in the cafe. My guess is that like the cook chef guy in the cafe.
Oh right. That would have been kind of the character's dead, in this supposed to be. It's the same. It's all the same universe. So he was in Predator 2. He's dead. And then also, he was an alien as well. Yeah. So.
Why were the army just kind of there in the bushes too? Is that entire forest, hundreds of acres of it, is it all just full of army people now because of this, or is it a coincidence? Or
because he woke up, because it's supposed to be a passage of a time has passed that he's been knocked out for a bit, so they've obviously located where they are. I suppose, just sort of turned up, in the crack of dawn, and
sneaked up without them hearing or noticing.
Well, that's the thing with all films. Or with all films or TV shows, would have like a secret organisation. They could just be anywhere at any time, Yay, these people survived who we don't care about. Yay.
It's like, those two stoners in the gun shop, I'm more emotionally invested in them than I am these heroes, and I would rather they'd survived.
if it was switched through to them as everyone else got killed off, that would be, this film would get like 2 more stars. It'd be a 4 out of 5 movie.
At the halfway mark, it just turned into a Kevin Smith movie. At least she's not all cheery and, yes, we survived, which I was expecting, given that a few hours ago her husband was brutally killed in front of the child who'll clearly never recover from that.
Like, the music does so much to sort of elevate the film as much as it can, but, you know, it's Brian Tyler's doing his best to sort of polish a turd, you know. Other guy on the left, his military badges are just ridiculous. He's got so many.
I remember thinking that as well.
Just have his whole jacket covered in them.
I want to say he was in the X-Files as well, actually, talking about all the shared actors and crew.
He's in The Land of the Dead, isn't he? George Romero's fourth movie, yeah. Which my friend who was obsessed with those movies hated. You know, it was such a, you know, Land of the Dead was such a polished movie where you saw the other ones are so grimy and gritty and just done on a low budget. Well, this was like, George Romero, have $30 million, whatever, you know, he makes some really sort of polished thing. Oh, it doesn't really fit, but Shane Salerno, yeah, he has a lot to answer for.
As this movie finished, we were talking about a different movie that isn't very good because this one is so uninteresting.
Produced by David Garland Walter Hill. I don't think they had no involvement in this. You know, I think this is probably all John Davis.
I'm surprised they're not tagged as executive producers.
Yeah, they're full-on producers on this. So, but I've never seen. There must be some interviews of Walter Hill just saying, "Oh, what are your thoughts on these movies?" You'd probably be like, "Terrible."
No, yeah,
I got paid. You know,
because they were so important in the formation of the Alien or the success of the original Alien film. I think they're so underrated. Dan O'Bannon, as much as he's the father of Alien, came up with very little. They came up with so much.
But they still, the names. They own the rights to it, don't they? That's why their names are still credited. But yeah, ultimately, and most people know and sort of agree with, that the film is extremely underwhelming. It's kind of hated by the fan base. It can be enjoyed, however, as you know, there's entertaining, stupid schlong.
Yeah, it isn't boring. You don't sit there bored to hell. There's no.
You got to work your way through the human storyline, but there's not much of it.
And that's where the whole problem lies. If they'd stripped out a few of those characters and developed and kept a couple of them in from start to finish and, integral to everything, it could have worked, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the directors are extremely talented visual effects artists, but it's demonstrated that this and their film Skyline, they're not the greatest of directors. Maybe they made like a couple of shorts beforehand, but maybe third time lucky, they could have made something a lot better. But I think because they're still so busy with doing most of the big movies, they did the effects for like The Predator, so they're still having connections to this franchise, but in the visual effects realm. So I think they'd rather just do the effects and not direct and have the stress of that. But as I've seen this film a bunch of times, and there's some interesting kind of little bits in it. The Predator does some cool stuff, but you kind of handicapped by the photography, and you can't see anything, and it's all shot in close-ups, which I've mentioned numerous times throughout this commentary. And the score's okay, but a bit over the top and a bit like just dun 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 dun, dun throughout the entire film. It's a bit much from Brian Tyler, but it's well, for a film that made a lot of money, they read the reviews and went, "Well, we won't make a third one." So they put aside the monetary gain and thought, "No, I think our reputation's probably should stay a little bit more intact."
To be fair, it is like you say, it made a lot of money, and there was nothing stopping them from doing another one. I'm surprised they haven't rebooted it yet, actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's maybe because of the whole direction with Prometheus, and
I guess that'd be it. Yeah.
That sort of scuppered their sort of who Wayland is and the company and stuff like that, and Alien Covenant not doing particularly well financially compared to Prometheus and everything else. But it's interesting. This film costs like 40 million. It's kind of like it's like the other Alien films where the budgets didn't. They were never huge budgets, were they, for Alien films? They're never like.
No.
I think the guy who did like some of the concept stuff on Alien Resurrection, he goes, well, the budgets were never as big as, say, Independence Day at the time. They were always kind of restricted by that. So they always chose a director who hadn't done that much but was extremely talented, who they can hire for cheap. And I suppose it's trying to follow the same process with this, give them like kind of a limited, moderate budget and get them to achieve a lot more than what they've got to work with. And unfortunately, you just had a turd of a script.
But well, yeah, but also if you. I mean, the concept demanded a much bigger budget because it's not contained. You know, you're going to have a lot of location shooting, which none of the others needed to do, and you're going to have a lot of characters and all those.
That's what aliens,
just lots of VFX as well.
That was so much. God, never-ending FX list. You know, it's always like the worst is I think the first time I was aware of credits being too long was like I think the Phantom Menace. Just kind of it's like people always joke about this kind of war memorial of names going up. It's like it's like World War Two. All the people that die.
A lot of people don't get credited as well from the visual effects companies. In fact, the majority of people who would have worked on this full time in visual effects probably didn't even get a credit.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing that happened with Oppenheimer. People did a lot of effects work on that, where it was pushed at, a lot of it's in camera, a lot of it's practical. It's like, well, actually, there's quite a lot of digital effects work, and those people weren't credited.
It's because you're a step removed. The company the production company hires, or the studio hires the VFX company, and then allots them usually a certain number of credits they're allowed to have, so 50, say. And then on a movie like Harry Potter, say, you're going to have well over 100 people in just one of the VFX facilities working on that full time. So they can't all be credited, but they did all work on it.
Yeah, so you have to have a lot of IMDb credits where you're just saying uncredited.
Yeah.
And someone's going to say, well, can you prove that? Well, it might be difficult to prove that, because it's not in the film. But anyway, folks, that's the end of the commentary. Hope you enjoyed it. Me and Rob will be back soon with some more ramblings on other movies that we'll probably decide upon the next couple of weeks. But hope you all enjoyed it, and take care of yourselves, and goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now.